years ago, I wondered, what if we could build a battery that's safe, high energy, and light enough to advance the development of electric airplanes?
Did you know that NASA isn't strictly limited to just spacecraft and astronomy? Believe it or not, they're funding and working on air travel and automobiles all around the world. And they have just developed a solid-state battery that defies the boundaries of physics.
SABRES is in the early stages of research for a battery specifically designed for electric aircraft. These discoveries can be game-changing.
Does this mean Teslas and sports cars will be running at the same speed as a rocket? Join us as we talk about the new and improved solid-state battery that's about to change the world forever.
This is NASA. They build rockets, telescopes, and batteries? Yeah, that's right. It was NASA's recent solid-state battery breakthrough. NASA's SABRES battery might actually have just pulled off the holy grail of battery tech, a high-powered solid-state battery that could electrify 90% of commercial aviation.
So what's so special about these new solid-state batteries? Well, NASA's current goal is to revolutionize air travel. This won't be making their own commercial airlines. Since the space company is full of the brightest engineers, they're going to fix things from the inside. Lithium batteries have been constantly evolving, and the people over at the space station often spend extra hours researching on the next big thing. Years and years of internal combustion engines used by billions of people all around the world have done irreversible damage to the planet. People are now realizing that they need to turn things around in order to save it. So companies started developing electronic vehicles, and these things need some of the best batteries in the market. NASA has decided to take things a little higher by engineering and designing batteries for aircraft. The aviation sector is responsible for around 2.4% of global carbon dioxide emissions. Flights are taken by millions of people every day all around the world, and let's just say, these things take a lot more fuel than your average car. What NASA came up with was the solid-state battery. Unlike lithium batteries, this new invention doesn't use liquid electrolyte chemicals. This is the liquid used to carry charges from the battery itself to your device and back. The whole charging process is all about sending and returning charged particles inside the battery using a liquid. This is the same liquid that causes most of the environmental waste. The chemicals in it can easily heat up and eventually catch fire, which is why most forest fires are caused in the first place. Solid-state batteries are part of NASA's initiative called Solid-State Architecture Batteries for Enhanced Rechargeability and Safety, or SABERS for short. This isn't some brand new invention that NASA cooked up in the lab, because solid-state batteries have been around for quite some time now.
SABRES is in the early stages of research for a battery specifically designed for electric aircraft. The future of electric aircraft is in need of a novel solution due to the use of lithium-ion batteries, which are highly flammable and incapable of delivering the energy needed to sustain long flights.
It's just that these things are very expensive to make, all for good reasons too. Solid-state batteries are more compact, take up less space, and last a lot longer. In the 2010s, a lot of research was put into this, and almost a decade later, they're finally planning to install them in vehicles both land and air. The best part? When the battery is disposed of, it doesn't turn into liquid and becomes an environmental hazard. It remains solid, which means it can't catch fire, affect the oceans, or seep into soil and harm any plants nearby. The way solid-state batteries work is similar to lithium ones. The only difference is that instead of a liquid electrolyte, it uses a solid electrolyte. If neither, it uses polymer gel electrolytes found in lithium-ion or lithium polymer batteries. The materials used for the cathodes and anodes are the same. The cathode, sometimes called the positive electrode, is made of metals like lithium ferrophosphate, lithium manganese oxide, or nickel manganese cobalt. The separator, or solid electrolyte, is generally ceramic or solid polymer. NASA has been trying to make these batteries more efficient while making them lighter too. They came up with a prototype sulfur-selenium battery that produced 500 watt-hours of energy per kilogram of battery.
Sabres is designed to do better, with the goal of truly enabling urban air mobility by designing a better and safer battery pack specifically designed for aviation. Sabre's goal, working with CAS, which follows a high-risk, high-reward proposal model, is to exceed that 325 watt-hour per kilogram value.
Research has proved that Sabres not only produce better energy storage, but better energy performance than lithium batteries too. These things are still being tested out with several partners on the front lines. These include the biggest centers like Georgia Tech, Argonne National Laboratory, and Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. However, developing batteries for vehicles is a completely different process for aircraft. In airplanes, energy needs to be discharged way quicker. NASA describes this process as a bucket in which the amount of energy stored is the battery's capacity, while the rate at which it can empty itself is the power. If you were to consider electric planes, for example, you'd need an incredibly fast discharge rate. In this case, the bucket would need to empty itself at exceptionally high speeds. By experimenting from one prototype to another, NASA was able to raise the rate of discharge by up to a factor of 15. To think that this was already an achievement on its own, but scientists kept finding ways to make these Sabres 1,000 times better. Turns out, they can also withstand temperatures so high that they make lithium-ion alternatives look like AA batteries. Since this is still a rather new concept, the Sabres team just recently found out that the solid-state structure of the battery allows them to modify the construction and packaging to make it weigh less. What's crazier is that they can increase the energy they store, too. How can they do this? Well, in the case of lithium batteries with liquid electrolytes, each battery cell is housed with its own steel casing. A Sabres battery, on the other hand, can be stacked vertically within a single casing. This allows it to perform better and store more energy. And this is the same reason the team found out that 500 watt-hours per kilogram is double the energy of an electric car. NASA has been doing research on these Sabre batteries under its Convergent Aeronautics Solutions project for sustainable aviation. Through this, they discovered that the solid-state cells can reduce the battery weight by 30 to 40%, which doubles the energy density, which isn't possible with lithium-ion batteries. Scientists and engineers are also toying around with different materials to use in these SABER batteries. They're trying to find out which material optimizes the power discharge, which is the major part of using them as a source of energy in the first place. A discharge cycle begins when a device or equipment is used until it stops working. The process starts with charging the battery and ends with discharging it fully, which means using up its power supply. This is a risky thing to do because draining or discharging a battery over 50% is not the best thing to do. This usually damages a battery lifespan, and if a battery dies completely, well, in the modern era, the vehicle is completely useless. But when making these batteries, there needs to be a lot of testing. The Sabre team will obviously have to drain an entire battery to see its lifespan, charging time, and efficiency before even considering putting it out on the market. Other testing includes safety, crash tests, using in extreme weather conditions, and of course, putting it in a vehicle first. This will take more than the usual amount of time because NASA wants to use these in airplanes and the aviation sector of transport. Now, electric planes already exist but aren't used as much yet. The reason is that they can't really fly long distances like traditional combustion engine planes do. Most comparisons are being made between electric airplanes and electric cars, but there must also be a comparison between electric airplanes and traditional ones that use a combustion engine. Turns out, Sabre batteries are effective as compared to other batteries used in electric cars. When put against a combustion engine plane, they're losing the race. Electric batteries just don't store as much energy per pound as gas and jet fuel do. Think of it this way: a plane would need a battery with an energy density of around 800 watt-hours per kilogram to even make it slightly above the ground. This is 363 watt-hours per pound just for liftoff. As of yet, the strongest lithium battery has an energy density of just 113 watt-hours per pound. With Sabre batteries and high energy densities, the future looks pretty carbon emission-free. NASA just has to work a little bit harder in testing out the discharge cycles. See, this serves two purposes. One determines how long a device or vehicle will last on a single charge, and the other measures the lifetime of the battery. Since the discharge rate has increased tenfold, the future of Sabre batteries in aviation looks very promising. Not to mention that they followed up with another five-fold increase. The rate at which Sabre batteries are improving is something that no one imagined a few years ago. Up till now, the inside of a Sabre battery includes an anode made of lithium and a cathode made of sulfur and selenium. The cathode has its own science going on inside. NASA developed something called holy graphene within the metal that contains both sulfur and selenium particles. Like the name, the invention is just as clever. The particles are integrated within the holes of the graphene material. This reduces battery weight and makes conductivity a lot better. For now, the Sabre team's main priority is safety and seeing if the solid-state battery meets the energy requirements for an airplane. They'll conduct all the temperature tests later because they're currently doing all this research under realistic conditions. Safety in extreme environments is a completely different story. The whole chemical process that happens inside a battery during the discharge cycle is usually affected by overheating and hot temperatures. Even though they discovered that the Sabre battery is still efficient and can withstand increased temperatures, there still needs to be proper testing for it. The people over at Georgia Tech help with different methods to improve solid-state batteries and make them more practical for use in the aviation industry. Georgia Tech is currently looking into the micromechanics of the battery and the changes it goes through during its operation. This helped NASA identify everything going on inside the cell and understand the pressure points for improvement. The fact that the inside doesn't contain any liquid electrolyte means there's less pollution and environmental hazard. But it also means that there's no lithium buildup possible within the battery, which usually occurs when particles move from the cathode to the anode. Since buildup is usually seen with carbon in combustion engines, it's different from a metal like lithium. If a metal builds up, it can form pins-like fragments and even grow in size. In fact, the buildup can grow into shrapnel and can pierce the separator within the battery. But because these separators are thick and solid, it's not so easy. Instead, the buildup can lead to cell deterioration and short-circuiting. So in a way, replacing lithium-ion batteries was almost an urgency. Sabre batteries can revolutionize the automobile industry. Unfortunately, it's going to take a lot more time than expected. Why? Well, airplanes are very weight-sensitive. If there are fewer passengers on board, it wouldn't mean that travel will be easier and more efficient. This concept only applies to cars on land. If there's any variation in the weight of a plane, it could actually cause difficulty to take off. Adjusting the weight with a heavy battery would be detrimental to the airplane itself. An electric car, on the other hand, could have a huge battery that weighs a ton and still drives smoothly. It can even provide a decent range and speed. There's just too much to consider when revolutionizing airplanes. Energy sources, weight, energy density, and discharge rates are just the tip of the iceberg. NASA is unsure when they'll be able to put the Sabre batteries out on the market. Thorough testing is still in progress, and it could take years to get a fully functioning commercial airline that is completely electric. But if they manage to succeed, the future possibilities of engineering and technology seem to be endless.
Sabres is showing promise to provide a safer, lighter, longer-lasting, and more sustainable battery than current state-of-the-art. This can possibly lead to advances in space exploration missions, such as the Mars rover and Mars helicopter program. Early performance results around safety and energy are exceeding our initial expectations. We're currently maturing the research in hopes of closing the gap between the vision of sustainable aviation. Here at home, this technology will even impact electric cars and vehicles.
If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and hit that subscribe button to see more content.